Nelson Mandela University, and they are going to give us the third presentation on partner highlights. There are three of them, and I believe they are led by Charles. He will introduce them and he will get started. I think they are looking for their student who is also going to be part of the team that is going to present. I'm sure you should have it. Okay, over to you, Charles. You will have 20 minutes of presentation and hopefully 5 minutes for questions and answers.
Morning, everyone. I'm just going to start off by showing you some data trends in the university, and because it links to some of the projects that we're doing. The first one, it was in Murray's presentation also, is that the school quintile profile of first-time entering students. Now what we see here is that it's rapidly increasing, quintiles 1 to 3, from, let me see, 44% in 2019 to 54% 2020, then it went up to 59% and then 64%. So it's rapidly increasing, and that has quite a lot of implications for student success initiatives and support. And in 2022, 72% of our undergraduate students were NSFAS funded. That is if you exclude the advanced diplomas which do not qualify for NSFAS funding. Then, the thing that we're always struggling with is the differences in success rate. We try to narrow the gap. And here I show the difference in the first graph between African students and white students. So you can see that in 2019, the African students had a success rate 12% lower than white students, and it improved a little bit to 11% lower. And then colored students also 7% lower than white students and 6% lower in 2022. And male-female is a huge problem. For African students, the male students had, let's just look at 2022, the yellow bars in the second graph was 9% lower than the female African students. The colored students was 7% lower than the male students and the female colored students. Indian students was 5% lower than the males and the females. And then for white students, the male white students was 6% lower than the white female students. And in total, you can see that there was in 2022 an 8% difference between the success rates of the males and the females, which is a huge gap. And then in terms of another thing that we're seeing is that our postgraduate enrollments is really declining at a rapid pace. It is frightening. You can see that in the average annual growth rate in headcount enrollments, let's just look at total postgraduates, was declining at a rate of almost 5% per annum, and the graduates at a rate of about 4% per annum. So this is very concerning, and therefore we've also introduced some project that we're going to look at what is our postgraduate problem. There was especially a huge decline in master's enrollments and graduates. If we look at you can see that our enrollments in master's programs declined from 1966 in 2018 to only 1491 in 2022. I remember a time when we had almost 3,000 master's enrollments, not just a few years ago. So it's just declining rapidly from year to year. And of course the graduates will follow the same path. And then doctoral enrollments, we're also seeing quite huge declines, and it's especially international students, but we know, you'll see later in the presentation about student success in COVID times, that we also had there's overall a huge decline in international enrollments because of the COVID pandemic and all sort of other issues as well as economic conditions in countries. But so you will see that we're now starting to focus on postgraduate students because postgraduate enrollments are so important for future academic staff, for researchers, for knowledge production and innovation. Another thing that this graph shows is the dropout rates at undergraduate and postgraduate levels. Now, a dropout here is a student that didn't graduate, that was supposed to come back and complete their qualification, that didn't turn up the next year. So they just got lost from the one year to the next. You can see how this has been increasing in our institution. In 2019, 16% of postgraduate students that were supposed to come and complete their qualifications didn't come back. That went a little bit down to 15% in 2020, then increased to 18%, and last year it was 22%. Now we've got the combination of the two problems. The postgraduate enrollments are declining sharply, and bigger percentages of them are not returning without dropping out. And you can also see at undergraduate level the same problem also from 10% in 2019, and that increased to 14% in 2022. Then this is a particularly interesting module. I think it must have the record for the lowest pass rate over all the years maybe. You can see it had a reasonable pass rate in 2016, 2017 and 18, starting to drop, and then it had a 25% pass rate in 2019. That increased to 66% and again dropped to 48%, and last year we had it at 78%. There's a particular intervention achieved, and Liesel will just quickly refer to that. So I'm going to give over to Liesel. I was just wanting to show you some data which links to the projects that we are doing.
Good morning, colleagues. I'm going to put the data that Charles just gave you into context for you in terms of how we enable student success, how we perceive student success at Nelson Mandela University. And the first thing I would like to share is a quote from the inaugural speech of our Vice Chancellor, Professor Sibongile Mutha, this year when she was inaugurated for her second term as Vice Chancellor. And you will see there, if you look at the bold, you will see that entrenched in Nelson Mandela University's strategic priorities is the notion of student success. It is a strategic priority. If you look at the visual at the bottom where it has our strategic priorities, student access for success is at the center of everything that we do in terms of our strategic priorities for our institution. How do we enable student success? How do we ensure that student success gets the attention and the support that it needs? Our institution made the decision round about the mergers to start putting together all the different areas, all the support structures that works towards supporting our students and our staff together into what was previously known as HEADS. Many of you may have heard of HEADS, but during the org redesign in 2019, it became the Learning and Teaching Collaborative for Success. And what you will see there is that it pulls together learning development, teaching development, our digital, our LXD, which is basically our digital enhancement and support, and it also includes our Imtomjeni student wellness, which is what is known as student counseling at many institutions. You will also see that it has very firm links to committee structures, institutional structures, faculties, our ICT, our Office for Strategic, for Institutional Strategy and Data, and how the institution has put it in a position where it integrates more with what is happening in the faculties, is that the Learning and Teaching Collaborative for Success is headed by our Dean of Learning and Teaching, Dr. Pumeza Kotanyati, who's here. And she has the same level of appointment as an executive dean in the faculties, sits on what we refer to as the deanery, which is all our deans combined, and therefore serves in that level in the institution and informs higher up to the reports to the Deputy Vice Chancellor Learning and Teaching. All our committees at our institution where student success is involved also has student representation, so you have the combined voices of students, support staff as well as academics in these committees and in these structures. We cannot separate student success. Charles has shared with us the data, and I know Siyaphumelela is about data analytics and numbers, but we cannot separate the holistic student, the graduate attributes from the numbers. We are not just trying to produce the numbers, we're trying to produce well-rounded students who are going to be able to fulfill their civic duty once they leave the institution. And so at the core of our Siyaphumelela interventions, we also keep in mind our graduate attributes. So for Siyaphumelela 2.0, we took into account who is our student in 2023. Our student, even our senior student in 2023 is looking differently to our students who we had 2-3 years ago, pre-COVID. And most of them have had online learning and are now senior students in a space where they have to engage face-to-face, sometimes struggling to adapt from the online environment to the new environment. Keeping in mind also at all times, as I said, our Vision 2030 as well as our graduate attributes, and then some of the challenges that we've encountered in Siyaphumelela 1 in the first phase, and that is looking at not only sustainability of the projects that we start under Siyaphumelela, but also scalability. So we don't have little pockets in various spaces, but rather that we look at what interventions can we take forward, what interventions can we scale up in the institution, so more people than just one small project can benefit. And so we've divided our projects for this year into 3 categories. The first one being, I can't see, I don't have my glasses on. The first one being data analytics and research. Under that, you will find our case management system for student success coaching. Our student success coaching is a combination of coaching and academic advising, and comes from the Siyaphumelela Academic Advising Initiative through UFS. The case management system will assist our coaches in being able to generate reports, will assist our coaches in better case management, and will eventually, in the second phase, grow to include all our learning development support initiatives towards student success, so that we can start getting a bigger picture of our data combined rather than the individual data capturing that's happening at the moment. We're also looking at IntelliBoard, which is a system that assists our student success coaches to be able to get dashboard data and 400 plus reports from Moodle, which is our learning management system. And then there is a research study in the health sciences on students' perceptions and readiness for hybrid learning. And we've got Professor Annelie here representing that. Thank you. Charles is whispering to me, if you can see. The postgraduate research study that will investigate not only our students' experiences with postgraduate studies at our university, but also the challenges they're experiencing and why the numbers are looking like Charles shared with us earlier. Then we're also going to do a review of our institutional student support programs, the whole institution. Not just those located in learning development, but also those in the faculty across the institution, to start getting a picture of what do we have in place, where are the gaps, where's the overlap, where is the needs in terms of where our students are, and are we offering programs in the way that those of us that are running it, that are Generation X people, in the way that we learned, or are we running it addressing the needs of our students today in 2023? Then we are also looking at a study in terms of the mental health of staff and students that Gregory Mitchell and Dalray Gravage will conduct. The second one is more student support interventions that we have, filling the gaps in certain areas for us. Also some pilot projects to let us know where the needs may be. And under that, we have our first year success program. Duncan was somewhere near me. There's Duncan. Duncan is stressed. And then also the Achieve program that Charles just spoke about is the Macmillan Learning Achieve program. And it is a sort of an online learning management system that is supporting currently our macroeconomics program. And they will share some interesting data in their presentation this afternoon. Students who do one of the post-chapter online assignments, if they do only one, they have seen, compared to students who have not made use of the online support, they see a 6.43, Professor Mishi? 6.43 difference in final mark. Those who have completed all 60 assignments, they're looking at a 35.34% final mark higher than students who have not attempted any of the assignments. And Professor Mishi will present on that. Then we also have our Quintile 1 to 3 mentoring program. It was conceptualized by a Quintile 1 to 3 student. It is coordinated by a Quintile 1 to 3 student. The whole concept comes from there. And then we have some of our research projects that will feed towards success that I've already mentioned in terms of our postgraduate studies. And then the final category would be our holistic student support. Then we have our Beyond the Classroom leadership that focuses on developing graduate attributes in the co-curricular space, as well as then our mental health of staff and students project. So those are the projects that we have under Siyaphumelela. And I am going to hand over to Viwe Martin, who is our student representative. He is from the Quintile 1 to 3 mentoring program. He's making himself vulnerable by sharing his journey with us. And the question I'm giving you before Viwe starts is, how do we determine student success? When do we consider our students successful?
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to be in a room filled with elite leaders of our societies. I want to start by quoting a French philosopher, Gustave Le Bon. He once wrote, "The only religion of mankind is and always has been hope." I am Roma as introduced. I am a Bachelor of Science student at Nelson Mandela University. In 2022, I arrived at Nelson Mandela University as a first-year student after I had passed my matric with a bachelor and 2 distinctions. My first year was rather a terrifying and a disastrous experience. I was lost, I had no sense of direction. It felt like a new world different from the real world. My first challenge was being unfamiliar with the territory. Secondly, I had to deal with all the responsibilities of being independent. My mother has always supported me for as long as I can remember. I am a very shy person. I am a very shy person, and I have social anxiety. Some people might consider me as antisocial. And that was my third challenge. I couldn't stand being around new people with different personalities. Plus, I viewed them as better than me because I come from a very poor background raised by a single mother. The most terrifying challenge of all was the new learning system established because of the pandemic, online learning. On top of this challenging learning method, I was struggling with all the new modules I had no prior experience to, unlike students who do not come from Quintile 1 to 3 schools. Online learning was very brutal for me. As a result, I fell behind on my studies. In high school, during the pandemic, schools were closed and there was no online learning, and our Kwanda 1 to 3 school do not have computers. My studies put a lot of pressure on me. I did not want to fail because I know how the situation was back home, and my family had a lot of hope in me since I was the first in my generation to come to varsity. As a result, I failed almost all my first semester modules, and I was left with one. And then I decided to cancel my second semester modules, and also I was left with one. A house committee member from my previous residence told me about a mentoring program, the Siyaphumelela Kwanda 1 to 3 mentoring program. And he told me to talk to our coordinator, Mr. Fumelo, and ask for a mentor. This was nearly towards the end of the first semester. And by then I had lost hope. I was thinking of dropping out. I did contact Mr. Fumelo, and he assigned me a female postgraduate mentor. She did her best to help me not only on my studies but also on my personal problems and my family issues that were weighing down on me. And she sacrificed most of her time despite having to deal with her own studies. Her passion and desire to help a stranger gave me hope, and I chose not to give up even though I failed my first year. I saw no shame in repeating. I am doing better than last year. And this also inspired me into taking a mentor's role. This inspired me into taking a mentor's role and help other students who have a similar challenge to mine and who also come from Kwanda 1 to 3 schools. I believe if I had someone to guide me right from the start, or I knew about the Siyaphumelela Kwanda 1 to 3 mentoring program, things would have turned out differently. I wanted to be a bridge between them and their varsity experience, so as to guide them and lend a helping hand where I can. I want to prevent them from throwing away their bright futures and also be their beacon of hope, because without hope, we are nothing. Thank you.
Indeed, he deserves a pamper. It's a typical case of a student who was struggling initially, but now he's doing well and is confident. I think that's a major success. So we have a few minutes for just one or two questions, if there are any. Any questions? There's a question there.
Thank you. I wanted to check with the Nelson Mandela colleagues in your programming, which I think you've advanced in terms of programming for student success. Are you also thinking of doing some programmatic work around the postgraduate experience? I do know that from your student affairs links, there were some seminars last year and there was a big talk and work that had just started for our universities to think about programming into the experience of postgraduates so that we also increase their success. That, when you showed your DEEP, I thought you might be one great case study for picking up on how else do we need to make sure that as much as we talk student success in our undergraduate, we do not neglect to do programming for the postgraduate experience. Thank you.
Yes, I wonder where Marion is, because she's actually going to lead our research on this, but I think this, Marion, would you like to say something about it? But this year, what they're doing a research project to find out why students that were admitted don't come to the university, if I'm correct, and there's going to be focus group interviews. They're going to also speak to lecturers. And then next year, in the second phase, they're going to focus on why the students that actually come drop out in such large numbers. What is going wrong? So we're trying to find the root causes of these things, and then from there we will then develop programs and initiatives to try to get more postgraduate students to start off with, and secondly, to retain more of them in the system.
Thank you, Charles. Unfortunately, I will have to bring this session to an end. Let me thank our Nelson Mandela colleagues, including the students.